Hello, welcome back to Not Your College Life with Lisa Beals. I am your host, Lisa Beals. This is episode 53. It's a bonus. It's a bonus. I am Lisa Beals, your host. I'm that Midwestern mom / college administrator who's done the college thing myself, put a couple kids through school, and realized as an administrator, we tend to make things really hard for parents and students. And it's not on purpose. We don't take a class on how to make it hard. But nonetheless, we all get in our ruts about how things work, and we forget that we don't speak the same language that college mom does. So I'm here to bridge that gap for you so you can better understand all of the hoops and ins and outs. And instead of pulling your hair out trying to coach your student on how to figure out all this craziness, you can instead spend your time teaching your student how to become an adult, how to coach them into a productive, healthy, self-sufficient adult so you can get on to empty nester syndrome. Okay, in this bonus episode, I needed to come on and tell you about the CARES Act. Well, it's not the CARES Act. It's the next CARES Act. It's the CRRSAA. It's a government act, so you know it's going to have an acronym, okay? Officially, it stands for Coronavirus Response and Relief Supplemental Appropriations Act. Whatever. Okay, so I'm going to tell you what it is. How much is it? I'm going to give you information on where to go to find how much your student's college was awarded. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about how students can use it and how students should be able to request money. Okay? I'm also going to tell you I've got some surprises in store for you. I just wrapped up my first joint podcast with Alicia, the college life coach. Did you love that? I went back and listened to it to pull some quotes from it. And you guys, she had such great content. Such great content. If you haven't already shared her Instagram with your student, you should. So first, I'm going to call it CARES Act 2.0 for nothing else, okay? I am going to have, coming up, I think next week, I am going to have not next week. Yes, next week. I have Joy from New Cash View. She is an attorney, and she's coming on here for a series of episodes to talk about student loan debt. Joy's going to talk about the CARES Act 2.0. Joy's going to come and talk about some student lending information for you as well. And we're going to spend several episodes, probably one a month, until y'all get sick of it. And we're going to learn about student loan debt and how to pay for college. In this episode, though, we're talking about CARES Act 2.0. On July 14th of 2021, the Department of Education announced an additional $21.2 billion, billion with the B, that was made available to higher education institutions to what they call ensure learning continues for students during the pandemic. If your student's university applied last spring to the CARES Act, they don't have to apply again this year. If they did not apply last year, then yes, they're going to have to apply. These funds are available to public and private, profit and nonprofit. So virtually any post-secondary institution is going to be eligible to receive these monies of the $21.2 billion. I wanted to share just an example of how much money that means for students, because the feds define of that money that each institution gets, they're going to say there's a minimum that has to be awarded to students. There's also a max, which I find kind of curious, but nonetheless, there's a min and a max that each university that receives this money is required to tag for students and then to distribute. So for example, Ball State for 2021 was awarded $22 million. And they are required to earmark between 7 and 14.8 million to students. Indiana University, main campus down in Bloomington, was awarded $35 million. And they were told that between 12 and 23.7 million had to be tagged for students. That's a lot of money, you guys. Purdue University, my joint. We were awarded 33 million, and we were told that between 11 and 22 million had to go to students. It's like 2/3, between 1/3 and 2/3. That's amazing. And then University of Illinois, the Champaign-Urbana campus, I'm going to have to look at their enrollment because, you guys, they were awarded $44.6 million. 44.6. I don't know what their enrollment looks like compared to IU and Purdue, but dang. They have to earmark between 15.7 and 28.8 million to their students. That's a lot of money, you guys. So there's money to be had. Okay, so how is this money awarded to students? So different from the first CARES Act, this one requires that institutions prioritize students with exceptional need, such as students who receive Pell Grants. Now, that's the exact language I pulled out. So, exceptional need. Well, it's not defined, right? It's not defined. So, there's going to be some professional discretion lumped into that. Now, here's one distinguishing factor. Students do not have to only be Pell Grant recipients or eligible for Pell Grant. I know a lot of y'all. I saw a lot of parents say, well, we never had our student file the FAFSA for 2021 because we knew we wouldn't be eligible for anything. And so for the first CARES Act last year when it hit, many of your students didn't even get considered because your students never did the FAFSA because you were all self-pay. This year, it doesn't matter. Regardless, you should always do the FAFSA. Whether you think you're going to get money or not, it's not that painful that it warrants possibly leaving money on the table. It's not. It's not that painful. They are working on revising it as well, which my friend Joy is going to come on, and we're going to talk about that in a future episode. But I'm telling you this. If you do nothing this week, besides listen to this episode, I'm going to tell you, have your student complete their FAFSA for the 2021 school year. Do it. Go do it. It doesn't hurt anything. And if by chance your student's university is using that information to help distinguish who gets money and who doesn't, or how much money everybody gets, have it on file. No more than an hour. It should not take more than an hour. Have them do it. And if you are one of those people that didn't have the FAFSA done and now did it or plan to do it, send me a message so I can high five you. I want to give you a virtual high five and say, awesome. Way to not leave money on the table. That was the first change, right? It doesn't have to be limited to Pell Grant recipients. In addition, the money can also now be used for students that are enrolled in totally distance education. Apparently, last time you couldn't. If you were in an online institution, you weren't eligible because you were already teaching online, right? Now they've realized, the feds have had this aha moment that, okay, maybe my instruction has always been online and so it's still online, but coronavirus might have affected my job, my childcare, my children's education. So now I'm a full-time worker, a learner, a at-home teacher, and I'm watching my kids at home while I'm juggling all these things. So thank you, federal government, for realizing that even someone that is a working adult that had always been attending school online, this coronavirus has still rocked their world. Okay. Thank you for that aha moment. Okay. Here's some things, 3 things institutions cannot do. They cannot make the receipt of these monies contingent on continued or future enrollment, meaning they can't tell your student, I'm going to give you money, but not until you enroll for summer or fall. They can't say, I'm going to give you money, but you have to promise that you won't withdraw from this spring semester. They can't say that. And if they do, your student should report them. They cannot, second thing, they cannot use these federal grants to satisfy a past due balance unless the student has said, yes, that's how I want that money used. So if a student has a past due bill, they can't award the student money as a way to collect for money in the arrears unless the student has explicitly said, that's what I want this money to go for. And then the third, institutions may not. The third one is they may not require such consent as a condition of receipt or eligibility for the financial aid grant. And that was tied to number 2. So let me read this again. They cannot use the federal grants to satisfy a past due balance unless the student explicitly says yes. And they cannot require such permission as a condition of receipt or eligibility. Does that make sense? So they can't say, I'm only going to give you the money if you consent to letting us use this to pay your past due bills. That makes sense to me now, right? As an institution, I cannot give you money and say you have to apply it to your past due bill, and I cannot require you as a student to consent that if I give you $1,000, you're going to apply it to your past due bill. You can use that money, student, however you want, to pay your rent, to pay your internet bill, to buy your textbooks, to pay for food. The institution is not allowed to provide stipulations on how that money should be spent. That's the third cannot. How may students spend this money? Right? First of all, they should have direct deposits set up. First, you're going to apply once you find the application, which we're going to talk about in a minute. But while you're waiting for those apps to be made available, get out there and sign up for direct deposit so you're not waiting on a paper check. You're not waiting on the mailman to deliver something in the mail that could be stolen. Direct deposit is the way to go. Okay? And if you are paying the tuition bill, mom and dad, if you're paying the tuition, y'all need to have a discussion. But my recommendation is that direct deposit should go to your bank account or a joint account with your student, not your students alone. Just words of wisdom I've learned from parents getting burned, and that you can choose to distribute that money to your student. You guys need to work that out, you and your student. All right, so how can the money be spent? These grants for students can be used for any component of the student's cost of attendance, or for any emergency that arises during coronavirus. So, tuition, food, housing, healthcare, that is physical or emotional health, childcare, utilities, internet, textbooks. I mean, I could keep going here, but I think you understand, right? Students have the ability to decide where this money is spent. If you are sharing this rebate with your student, or if your student is at home going to school, don't think that they're still, right? Not that you would, but just in case, you could use this money if they haven't already got a good pair of headphones and a webcam. That would be a good investment to earmark this newfound money. Newer, better, faster computer, better, faster internet. If you or your spouse has had a reduction or loss of job or income, this is going to help you guys supplement to cover the cost of tuition or childcare so that your college student is not providing daycare, but you can actually hire someone to provide daycare to your other littles at home. So be intentional and thoughtful with your student when they get this money. Where's it being spent? And if your student is already a very self-sufficient money manager because you've already coached them to that point, high five, Mom. High five. Kudos to you. That's hard work. Give yourself credit. Okay, lastly, I will tell you those 4 institutions that I already talked about, how much money they were getting: Ball State, IU, Purdue, and Illinois. I've got links in my show notes to their application page. Many of them were talking about late January they would have information. None of them have updated their websites yet. I did email a couple, and they're still waiting for those appropriation dollars to hit their accounts from the feds. So IU has their application open. They've always got an emergency loan, emergency funding app open. So I would say if your student is attending IU, certainly they have an opportunity to go ahead and take care of that application process, right? So IU's always got their app open. Apparently they've got other discretionary funds, or they just keep a running log of apps. But Ball State, Purdue, and Illinois do not have their apps open yet. I do have links to their financial aid websites so that you know where to go and look if you're struggling with that. Send me an email. Have your student send me an email. We'll find where they need to go. But your homework is FAFSA should be done for 2021 school year. If it wasn't already done, go do it. If there's been a dramatic change in your financial status from the 2019 year to today, because FAFSA goes to prior year. So if there's been a change in income, financial situation, your student wants to report that to their financial aid office. So FAFSA, any changes, and then look for that application. Look for that application, earmark it, get it ready, and your direct deposit should be set up. Okay, you guys, I hope this was helpful. I don't do a ton of bonus episodes, but I felt really strongly that I needed to get some information in your hands so that you can start having conversations with your student, because I never want you guys to leave money on the table. We are all struggling right now. So I hope you found this episode helpful. If you did, do me a favor. I know it's time out of your day. I know you have to be intentional. Do me a favor. Go to iTunes. Give me a review. Would you please? And then send me a screenshot so I know you did it. So I can send you a thank you personally. I can't see them. I'm an Android user, and I don't have enough reviews on iTunes for me to see it in my iTunes app as a desktop user. So I'm sorry, but please, I would love it. I would love to thank you. So send me a review, 5 stars. You can give me less than 5, but you're going to give me feedback on how I can make it better. And then send me a screenshot of it so I can thank you personally. Honestly, I would love to say thank you. And then lastly, share this episode with someone that you think needs to know it, because, y'all, it takes a village. It takes a village to raise a kid today. And I don't care if you're socially distanced or if you live in Timbuktu. We are here to help each other. Okay? All right, you guys. Till next time, take great care. Bye-bye.